Okay, I would like to call to order the Tuesday, June 28th, 2022 Village of Lansing Planning Board meeting at 7:03 PM. For those of you here and also online, if you can silence your cell phone, please, that'd be great. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes for May 31st, 2022. I know Mike sent them out. I know Lisa looked at them. I looked them over quick. Did you have a chance to?
Oh, no,
Okay. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to change on them?
I didn't see any.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the May 31st minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Pat.
Second.
Second by Lisa. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the public comment period. So this is an opportunity for anyone in person or online to bring up a topic they'd like to discuss that isn't already on the agenda for this evening. If you do have something you want to say, raise your hand or unmute and let us know.
I'm just here to observe for, as you know, for the Village of Lansing Community Party.
Okay, exciting. I'll entertain a motion to close the public comment period.
So moved.
Motion by Lisa, second by Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'm gonna wait for my, I read up. The next item on the agenda is the continuation of the public hearing for special permit number 2022-4575. I won't read through everything, but this is the McGuire Chevrolet Cadillac located at 35 Cinema Drive, tax parcel number 46.1-6-5.12, is seeking to update the existing building and do some improvements. Mike, you want to take it from here?
I'll make a note that Jim arrived at 7 o'clock. Just started. John's here. John Schneider's here. John was in the office last week. He was unable to make our last meeting. Basically, we spoke about what was needed, what the planning board wanted. As far as questions or so, I emailed John back. I asked him to be prepared to discuss the unloading of the trailer, you know, how that's going to end up working. Anytime when it was available, I needed him to send me over any of the sign information or any of the plans for the addition, which I assume Saratoga is still working on. And also if they could send me some dimensions to see if there was any variances needed. Because, Nissan needed, I think, 3 or 4 variances for their project. So I'm assuming that McGuire may need 1 or 2 here and there. Chevy Cadillac dealership. And I asked him to contact Brent Cross to see if there's any more details that Brent needed.
So I need to speak up and say John did reach out to me, and I can't remember exactly what was going on. I probably could come up with 10 excuses, but none of them would be valid, and I simply didn't get back to John in time. And so we haven't had any detailed conversation. We had a very brief discussion just a few minutes ago before the meeting. And so I apologize for that.
Okay. John, did you want to, I know that you couldn't make it last time, unfortunately. And the kind of the first thing there that Mike brought up was something that we discussed looking at the plans you submitted, and that was the proposed loading and unloading of the trucks as they arrive there. Could you speak to that a little bit more? And you are muted. Just warning you.
How's that?
That's perfect.
All right, good. Yeah, why don't I can share a screen. I sent this drawing, I believe, to you, Mike, and also Brent, just to kind of answer the question. I don't want to get too much into the weeds here, but we did look at a couple different options, and really option 3 is really our best option. And this is what I think presented to the board when we did the Nissan project. However, with option 3, the better option is to take trucks out around the Nissan building and out to Uptown Road in this direction. This will also work in reverse, and we could do a drawing of that as well. So this is kind of what we feel is our best way of getting a truck into the site and around the site for both, not only Chevy Caddy, but for the Nissan building as well.
So John, first of all, thanks for putting this together. The one thing that isn't shown on the spot here, so at the front where the Chevy Cadillac dealership is, you've got the spots identified there. On the back, you know, above Nissan, where the truck's going to be kind of coming around that turn before they go straight to leave, you don't see the cars that are all parked there along that tree line. To us, when we talked about it last week, it looked pretty tight.
Right.
Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I could show the car line in there. It is a little tight. We do have this corner that is marked off for no parking in this zone. But this area is a little bit tight.
Okay.
I'll get that. I'll get the parking line drawn in the drawing so that you can kind of see that.
Okay. And again, just wanted to make sure it works. I mean, as long as you say it's going to work, but I think we just want to, you know, visually, that was the thing that concerned us, you know, pulling in down by Cadillac and pulling out by Nissan. I know there's that curb cut there, pulling out of Nissan onto Uptown, but I'm sure the trucks can navigate that. Just, it was that back piece there that looks pretty tight, knowing
Yep.
that there's other stuff there that isn't on the diagram here.
Yeah, that is a little tight on that corner, but
Yeah.
we've marked it off so that there is no parking in that, you know, in this turning area right in here.
Lisa?
So, John, when you expect a delivery, is it something you could clear out, something to make it easier for them to unload? Or is it sort of hit or miss? I mean, one of the things that keeps coming up is that they're fairly independent, shall we say?
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering how this is going to work. How are you going to advise them that this is a new situation?
I'd have to talk to Phil and the, you know, the general manager up here on the site to kind of talk a little bit more about how we would control the drivers. You know, I think Phil has mentioned in the past, there is a fair amount of, you know, we don't necessarily have complete control over who is the carrier for these vehicles when they show up on our site.
And John, this is Phil. I am here.
Oh, you are? All right. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the Teamsters Union. And we do have the ability to put in a submission of exactly how they load and unload. They will deliver without notice to us at any time, day or night. So it's imperative that we get as much as we can on record, and
Right.
that we have available the parking lines available 24/7 for them to unload. And we do struggle in all our dealerships, as all dealerships do, where many times a truck driver is not the same driver. They could be a broker, they could be delivering for the first time, and they tend to, you know, cowboys, excuse the expression, where they load and unload, unfortunately. And so we continually give them feedback and attempt to do our best to try to have them follow the plan.
Any other questions on the diagram that we put together?
No, I don't think there's anything else on the diagram. Did we want to talk, Mike, about anything that we got back from the county?
John, I received stuff back, or I received a letter back from the county on that GML 239.
Yep.
What I'll do is I'll send that over to you. A lot of it is like Nissan, they want to make sure all the lighting are updated.
Right.
high efficiency lighting and that type of stuff. I'll send it over to you and you and I can review that. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've already got it figured in there as it is for the project, but like I said, we'll just go over it.
Yep, no, I'm used to that letter from other projects and most notably the Nissan project where we had to go through that. And then I guess the only other thing to kind of share with the board is we provided our thoughts on how we would be dealing with stormwater on the site, where we were suggesting some catch basins that connect to the municipal system. So if this was the reason why I called Brent, if you could maybe take a look at this and offer some opinions on this system. We're, obviously trying to minimize our disturbed area of the site. That's one of the reasons why we're doing it in this manner.
Right, so a general guiding principle and a project like this, which falls under the category of redevelopment. The general guidelines say that 100% of disturbed areas plus 15% of the undisturbed areas would need to be provided with quality and quantity treatment. And so I'm not sure if what you're showing here, the darkened areas are disturbed areas, or if there are any disturbed areas, but if there aren't any new impervious surfaces, then I think that the redevelopment law does require 15% that you would have to provide stormwater management practices that equal 15% of the site.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, it may make sense, Brent, for maybe Ron Mogren and you to kind of have a conversation directly on that topic so that we kind of
Right.
work.
Yeah. I will say to you in front of everybody that we would encourage you to do better than 15%. We've usually get cooperation with developers to endeavor. We know that because of redevelopment laws, we're not in a position to require you to do better or to meet a full 100% SWIP. But we have in the past asked people to achieve as much as they can practically achieve, and we usually get something better than just the minimum.
Okay. All right. No, it's good to know, Brent. Thanks.
Yep.
I had a question that I wanted to ask about the lighting.
Mhm.
I think that I noticed at some point that the lighting apparently along the street is village lighting. Is that what
Yeah.
I read?
Yeah, the lighting along the street is actually in the village right away.
So that will be up to the village to upgrade. Those are the ones that are pretty rusty and everything.
No, we're showing the replacement of those, Lisa,
Oh, you are? Okay.
and moving those to our site.
Okay, I was confused by that. I didn't think that, okay, so I was just wondering.
We've got some placeholders in our design right now. That's the symbol right here.
Okay.
For a light fixture.
Yeah.
We'll have to, work through the light level analysis similar to what we did at Nissan.
Right.
But that's what our thought is to, obviously get those corrected and put them on the right side of the property line.
Okay, I wasn't understanding what was going on there, so thank you.
John, I don't remember if we asked last time, but when this project is taking place, is the dealership going to remain open, I assume, or are they going to?
Yeah, yes, they would be open. We're gonna have to get creative with a phasing plan for this. I don't have a good idea of how to go about that yet. But no, service and the body shop do need to remain open as does the showroom.
Okay.
So it's going to be a tricky project from a phasing standpoint.
Sure, yeah, it popped into mind because we didn't have to worry about that with Nissan because it was new.
No.
Okay, Lisa, did you have any other questions, Lisa, or anything?
No, I'm fine.
Pat or Jim?
Nope.
Okay, John or Phil, anything else you wanted to share?
No.
Okay.
No, we appreciate
yeah.
it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, so, John, Michael forward along that information from the county, and then, if you and Brent or whoever can get together and talk about stormwater management, we can kind of take it from there at the next meeting.
Okay, and if there's any variances that we need to go through, I just want to try to make sure we're preemptive on all that stuff and we get all that stuff taken care of right out of the gate.
Yeah, I think some of it's gonna depend on some stuff that you're holed up on too, right? You
That's
know,
right.
When
Yeah, I
it
gotta
comes to
get some
lighting, when it comes to signage, things like that. But yeah, so, right, as soon as we get that, we can start looking that over like last time.
Okay, awesome.
Great. Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks, John. Thanks, Phil.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the continuation of public hearing for special permit number 2022-4576. This is the VA outpatient clinic at the old Party City property. Is Richard Briggs online?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there you are. I missed you for a second. I couldn't with all the other faces. Okay. Mike, did you want to start us off?
Rick, I don't know whether you want to add anything or you want me to just kind of start going through the list here of what I sent you, like the flagpole and whatnot. Yeah, all I said is taking into consideration of the last meeting, we actually lowered the flagpole to a 25-foot pole with the light head on the top of it. I send you all the literature on that says it meets the night sky requirements. So we did that. If they want to consider anything else in the future, we'll look at that. But right now, that's what we're proposing. We took the lights off the building, which were the issue, so they're no longer shown on the drawing. We don't have any other lighting that we're proposing on the outside of the building that would should cause any issues, because we're not doing any exterior lighting at all. The canopy lighting exists in the current plaza, and any parking lot lighting exists, so we're not doing anything with that. We did send you calculations of how we calculated the water use. And one thing, Mike, that I didn't get to you is we did check a couple other clinics. That 500 gallon a day is pretty close to what they have at other facilities. There was one facility had more than that, but it was an older facility, so it wouldn't have had the newer style toilets with the low water use. So that seems to be that limit is right around 500 is what we found. So our calculations seem to be pretty accurate. I can't remember what else there was. Oh, they did contact the health department, and the only concern the health department asked them about was if the building was on city. No, that's Danville. I'm sorry. It's another project I'm working on. Or did you guys, I think it was, I'm doing 2 of these VA clinics right now, so I could be getting them confused. They wanted to know if you were on city water or whether it was a well. And so we said it was city water. They were fine. The only thing they said, if you're on a well, they wanted regular testing and records kept. We don't have to do that with public water.
Okay, Brent, are you satisfied with everything as far as the water consumption and all that?
I think that the calculation is acceptable. I guess the question for Brixmor is, are they going to submit an evaluation of the entire property and then decide if this project needs additional units? Or are we just going to leave it to this project to fend for itself and add a couple sewer units?
One thing that we did send is they checked on the Party City store, and if I'm not mistaken, it was a 320 some gallon a day use.
283.
Okay, yeah,
0.89 was
Okay.
what we had determined based on the historic, the calculations of billing.
So the strategy is either that we just simply take that number and subtract it from the new VA estimate, and it comes up to, 1 or 2 units, and they buy units and we move forward. Or Brixmor if they want to, has the right to do a plaza-wide evaluation and compare it to past, at some point in time, there was probably a peak usage, but that would certainly be up to you guys to decide if that's what you wanted to pursue. The benefit of doing that would be to avoid buying a unit or two. I think you might have asked the question last time, what's the value of that? And I know the village just revisited that. And I think it's been set at $2,350. Is that right, Mike?
That's correct.
So each unit would have a value of $2,350 at the Village of Lansing, and then an additional $300 at the Village of Cuba Heights for the connection.
Hi, this is Ron Turner with Valor. Is that a one-time fee?
Yeah, it's a connection fee, and then after that, the sewage is billed as a function of the water meter readings. And I guess I haven't really been thought to look into it, but I'm assuming that Brixmor has a master water meter and probably covers that. And then whether or not they seek compensation from the tenants, I'm not sure. But that the fee is a one-time connection fee.
So if we could have the understanding that they had 283 gallons worth of use currently, and we're saying we're going to go to 500, we're more or less doubling it. How many taps would you say that would require us to buy?
Well, it would be like 1.5. So I guess somebody would have to decide if you're going to buy 1 or 2. And I guess at the moment, unless there was an appeal, otherwise I would say 2.
So Brent, that means that the one-time fee would be the $2,350 plus the 300, so it's $2,650 per unit?
That's correct. Times 2.
Well, in this case, yeah, but
Yeah.
just a single unit is $2,650 essentially.
Right. Correct.
So would those additional units be the pretty much only thing that would prevent us from getting you guys' approval today?
Well, the last thing I wanted to go over was, I've got to go over your signage that you gave me, Rick. I've got to, because Cuba Mall is in a planned sign area, there are certain regulations that are allowed for each unit. And there are a couple, areas that your building or that building in particular, or that unit in particular falls under. Stores with a facade length of 50 to 69 feet, which is what you're estimating 62.4, so it falls within that. May have a store frontage sign not to exceed 55 square feet. As I look at your sign, the way the village code reads, to interpret how large your sign is to put the smallest rectangle over whatever figure or lettering that you have. In this case, there's 2 ways of looking at this. One with you have the VA, and then you have a vertical line, which makes the box or the rectangular larger. If it is figured that way, you take your 27'7" times your 6 feet, and you've got 165 square feet. If the actual line were brought down to the height of the other letters, then you're only talking about 110 square feet. Either way, you're over the 55 square feet that's allowed. But there is another section of that sign development area that says stores that occupy at least 14,000 square feet which that store does, a gross floor area may have a primary storefront and up to 2 accessory signs, not to exceed 150 square feet. So with these planned sign areas, if I don't see that it is clearly within that sign development area, I have to send it to the planning board or ask the planning board how they would actually interpret this. If the planning board feels that, yes, you have the one sign, instead of what it says, having up to 2 accessory signs with it to be under the 150 square feet, if the planning board feels that this actually justifies your sign, then we can go ahead and you can go ahead and be approved for the sign. Otherwise, you may end up having to get a variance. So it's kind of up to the planning board what they want to do with this. It would have been a lot easier if I'd had this in front of you on the screen here, but with our hybrid system, I'm not allowed to do that at this point. So I guess I'm asking.
Where I'm at with signage is that is never part of my construction project. It's always handled by Valor and a sign vendor who applies for a separate permit and goes through whatever meetings they have to and gets the approval. We asked for that from Valor. That's what the VA asked them to put on. So they sent that to me. But I think all that's a part of a future discussion with somebody with signage because I don't do the signs.
Yeah, well, whatever, I understand that, whether you do it or not, Rick, I mean, the planning board has to take a look at this and figure out how they want to handle this situation before, they end up voting on this special permit. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd ask for input from the planning board.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, so yeah, this has come up before. Now, in the past, usually when we have a planned sign area, we kind of get something from like Brixmor that says, what's the total and where we're at kind of thing, as we do with the Ithaca shops. And we've also went through this where sometimes this, it looks, if you adhere to our sign square footage and it's a large building like this, it makes sense to go with the 1,400 square foot can go up to 150 square feet. I looked at this and thought, in my mind, I eliminated, honestly, the stripe going up because I just thought, it doesn't take up much. More concerning to me is whether the sign is lighted.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be lit. It's whatever it meets, whatever Brixmor's standard is for the or requirement is for the mall.
But in terms of, I guess, the square footage, if it's what, 10 square feet over because of this, the vertical line, I don't have objections to that.
Yeah,
Can you possibly put a picture or up on the screen the proposed signage?
Here, this is Ron. Let me share my screen right quick.
Okay. And Ron, I'm sorry, I haven't caught up with you on this because I believe this was something you guys were discussing with our property management team, but this is your sign vendor's plan?
Yes, it is. And I just sent it to Rick and Rick forwarded it on to the planning board meeting to kind of have them review it first.
Does the planning board typically review sign plans?
Yes.
The planning board, in the case of a special permit, will review the sign for the whole facility.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a separate sign code as well. But
You need me to blow that up, Mark?
Yeah, no, it's great. I can see it. It's great. It's fine.
Okay.
We have a set of our rules that we require, sign criteria that we require tenants to adhere to. They also have to comply with local code and their sign vendors typically do the research. And, I'm guessing that if this is not in compliance with code, that they're going to be making a separate application for a variance if that's required.
That's correct.
Oh, correct, definitely. Yeah, we have to.
Ron, if you can go up towards the top up there where you have the dimensions, please.
there's a couple ways of looking at it. If you look at this as a planning board, there's a couple ways of looking at this. If you ask for that vertical line to come down to basically the 4-foot height, that sign would technically fall under section 2E of the Cuba Mall Development Plan, and actually it would actually fit in there, and it would actually meet word to word, it would be okay. If that's the direction you want to go to. If not, you're going to be 165 square feet, which is going to be over what is allowed there, and you end up having to have a variance. And it's all because of that vertical line.
Yeah, and we're not going to apply for the variance. We're going to do whatever's within code. Our signage vendor will have to do a little more research on this.
So I guess it's, if the planning board feels if the sign company or whatever can take that vertical line and bring it down to the 4-foot section, that it would comply with the actual planned sign area. If that's the way you would like to go with this, then we can always put that in the resolution. If not, they'll end up having to get a variance, and that would be part of the resolution anyway.
Right.
So if you want to pass it on as far as a.
I would suggest it.
Yeah, I'm,
Just what? Or reducing the size?
Reducing the size.
yeah, what I would say is, you know, if we want to move forward with the resolution tonight, yeah, putting a thing specifically in there that says, you know, that the sign has to meet the, you know, the plan to sign requirements for the plan to sign area requirements for Hagen Mall.
Yeah, it seems right.
Ron, I don't want to speak out of turn here, Ron, on behalf of your company, but from what I understand, you're basically saying that you will agree to comply with the code requirements and reduce the size of that blue line, right?
Correct. We'll make it within the 4 feet that's per the code and regulations.
So I would just, yeah, absolutely. If you could include that in the resolution as such, that's fine.
I mean, it's minimal and it seems trivial, but it is what it is. I mean,
No,
that's.
absolutely. I think that, and they're agreeing to comply with that.
Yeah, we're in agreement.
Not to be technically or complicated, but they could shrink that 4-foot down slightly too, which would minimize the area, Ron.
I was going to suggest that also, Rick. 'cause
Yeah,
honestly,
very good idea, because I think we
I-
should
I
shrink the
think
VA letter down.
I think if you could shrink everything down, because I will say aesthetically, it's nice that that line be a little bigger to separate the VA from Tompkins County, but that's just an aesthetic thing. But I think maybe, I don't know, can you shrink everything down like enough to bring it to the 150? I don't know.
Well, I think that's the point, though, in the resolution, we can just put a piece in there that says it has to meet the requirements of the plan signage area for the mall.
Right.
And then whether it's reducing that line, shrinking everything, as long as it meets the, you know, meets those requirements, that's fine. But I think because this is a little outside of the ordinary, and it's something that's gonna come later, I think it is important for us to put in the resolution, even though it's kind of inherent.
And we'll state what section of the.
Section 2E.
Yeah, 2E, that way it's unmistakable that you agreed that 2E was gonna work.
Yeah, yep. There's one other thing that we had mentioned, and I know that Rick, you sent us an email saying that you spoke to somebody from the Tompkins County Department of Health and the VA clinics, okay? One of the other things.
They did do that. Valor did contact them, yes.
So one of the things, if we do vote on this tonight, we would also put a requirement in there. I do appreciate the email from you, but we would like one sent directly from Tompkins County Health Department directly to Mike Scott here at the village.
Yes.
So if you could get a hold of, or if you could get a hold of the person that you talked to and just have them send
Yeah,
a note.
Ron,
Yeah, it could be a simple
Rachel
note that you
Rachel
forwarded.
did that, so.
Okay. So, but Lisa, Pat, and Jim, are you comfortable with those, just adding those two things in, really the ones inherent anyway, the, you know, the plan sign area, but just saying, calling those out, adding to the resolution and approving it?
As long as and in the signage, the lighted sign, do we have to worry about how bright it is or anything? Or how does that work when it's lighted signs?
Why don't we do this? Let's just also have, because of the light on top of the flagpole, let's just have the lighting committee look at this.
I think that would be.
Do you have a code requirement for, you know, how bright it can be?
Well, the lighting,
It's in our new lighting law, and what we'll do is, if the lighting commission, they'll take a look at it, they'll approve it, either as is or make suggestions, and then we'll move on with that. And in that case, it won't hold up the whole project.
Okay.
could I just ask Brixmore, I mean, I don't go out at midnight to look at what's going on. So are all of the signs lit up overnight? Or how does that work?
Well, I unfortunately, I don't have my property manager on the phone. I was just actually texting her about what our own sign criteria is, because I think our sign criteria might be even more stringent than yours, believe it or not. No, signs typically get dimmed at night, and it sort of depends on where, at what stage. Some of our properties are further along in their, how do I put it? They've already been turned, like all of the lights at the center have been put on LED. And a lot of times those lights are on computerized systems that dim at certain points of the night.
Right.
We always have to comply with I forgot what you call them. They're I don't want to call it blue sky laws, but we have to comply with whatever the local requirement is regarding how bright lights at the center can be at night. And we typically try to be, we don't want to run up the bill either. So we're very careful about that as well. But typically tenants are allowed to have their signs illuminated at night. The center doesn't go dark, the signs don't go dark.
Okay.
Ron, I would ask though, if none of your clinics are open past like 5 o'clock at night, I don't think you normally have the front of your plaza lit up at night.
I'd have to check and see, but you may be right, because yeah, our clinics generally close at 4:30.
Well, the lighting commission, we have some, our code will stipulate whether, whether it has to go down to 50% or whatever. So
Yeah.
this seems to be the only, aside from the flagpole, which I guess remains at full dark sky. I don't know how that works either, quite honestly, but I would assume that the signage would just be reduced after hours, that's all. But I don't.
For adding the.
I mean, it hasn't been, I'm not aware of, and I could certainly ask our property manager, but I'm not aware, I don't think we've had any complaints in this district, in this corridor about the lights at all. If we were in a real residential area, if the center was one of those centers that's like really integrated in a neighborhood, we oftentimes will hear from neighbors that the lights from the grocery store are too bright. But I don't think we've heard anything at this center that I'm aware of in the way of any complaints about, excess lighting.
Good. Yeah, I think it's only in the back of all the buildings that you might, that you have the residential component, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, here you're swapping out, you have to remember, we're swapping out Party City for this use. And to a certain degree, I think if you look at the Party City sign, I don't think this is any more obtrusive than that sign.
Yeah, this is good.
Big.
That's right. Less colorful a little, but.
Yeah, the Party City, they've got a lot of colors in their sign, as I recollect.
They do.
Okay, are there any final comments on that before we move forward with the next steps? Okay, so one of the things we do have to do before any special permit is granted by the planning board is read through our general conditions. I thought Lisa was going to smile there for a second because she doesn't have to do it. So.
No, I'm just glad it's you.
So I will read through these, and if you have any comment about them, let me know. So 1, it will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare. 2, it will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the vicinity or neighborhood. 3, it will not impede the orderly development of the vicinity or neighborhood and is appropriate in appearance and in harmony with the existing or intended character of the vicinity or neighborhood. 4, the street system and off-street parking facilities can handle the expected traffic in a safe and efficient manner. 5, natural surface water drainage ways are not adversely affected. 6, water and sewage or waste disposal facilities are adequate. 7, the general environmental quality of the proposal in terms of site planning, architectural design, and landscaping is compatible with the character of the neighborhood. 8, lot area, access, parking, and loading facilities are sufficient for the proposed use. 9, the requested use or facility conforms in all other aspects to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located. 10, the applicant has shown steps will be taken where necessary to meet all performance standards and all other applicable general conditions. If everyone agrees that those conditions have been met, I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Pat,
Second.
second by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so then we do need to close the public hearing if we're going to move on with the resolution. So I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I will move to close the public hearing.
Motion by Jim,
I'll second.
second by Pat, all in favor? And then we can move on to the resolution. So I think everyone should have the resolution in front of them. You passed those out, right, Mike? Okay, so this is the Village of Lansing Planning Board Resolution for Special Permit number 2022-4576, adopted on June 28th, 2022. Whereas this matter involves consideration of the following proposed action, special permit number 2022-4576 for the proposal by Richard Briggs representing the Brixmore Property Group to remodel the former Party City tenant section of the Cayuga Mall located at 2309 North Trip Hammer Road, tax parcel number 46.1-5-4.2 into the Tompkins County VA Outpatient Clinic. And on May 31st, 2022, June 13th, 2022, and June 28th, 2022, the Village of Lansing Planning Board opened and continued a public hearing regarding this proposed action and therein thoroughly reviewed and analyzed the materials and information presented by and on behalf of the applicant in support of this proposed action, including information and materials related to the environmental issues, if any, which the board deemed necessary or appropriate for its review. All other information and materials rightfully before the board, including, if applicable, comments and recommendations, if any, provided by the Tompkins County Department of Planning in accordance with General Municipal Law Section 239-1 and 239, I'm sorry, that's L, isn't it? 239-L and 239-M. And 3, all issues raised during the public hearing and or otherwise raised in course of the board's deliberations. And on June 13th, 2022, the Village of Lansing Planning Board, in accordance with Article 8 of the New York State Environmental Conservation Law, seeker, and NYCCR Sections 617.5 and Section 123.2 of the Village of Lansing Code, and amended on environmental review and adopted a resolution for seeker review in connection with special permit number 2022-4576. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. The Village of Lansing Planning Board hereby finds, subject to conditions and requirements, if any, set forth below in the provisions provided in paragraph B above, that the proposed action meets all general conditions required for all special permits, any applicable conditions required for certain special permit uses, and any applicable conditions required for use within a combining district. And it is hereby determined by the Village of Lansing Planning Board that special permit number 2022-4576 is granted, approved, or denied, subject to the following conditions and requirements. So we've got our standard ones in here about soil and erosion control measures. So all those things, water quality techniques shall be implemented and coordinated as required and approved by the Village of Lansing Code Enforcement Officer and or the Village of Lansing Engineer, and a plan for maintenance and said control measures and quality techniques over time shall be established with the Village of Lansing Code Enforcement Officer or the Village or the Village of Lansing Engineer. Prior to a building permit being issued, approval by the Village of Lansing Engineer and Village of Lansing Stormwater Officer of, but not limited to, site work, stormwater management and infrastructure plans and implementation thereof. Drainage easements for potential impact from the stormwater management facilities and neighboring parcels shall be obtained provided to the village for approval by the village engineer, stormwater officer, and attorney, and thereafter recorded at the Tompkins County Clerk's Office. C, required permits, approvals, consents, and other authorizations from all applicable federal, state, county, and local governmental and regulatory agencies shall be obtained, maintained, and complied with for all permitted improvements, operations, and activities as authorized by this special permit approval. And such improvements, operations, and activities shall at all times comply with all applicable federal, state, county, and local laws, codes, rules, and regulations. And then we wanted to add a few on here.
I'll add what we spoke about as far as the sign approval as per section, what was it,
Section 2E.
2E.
Yep.
I'll also add lighting commission approval.
Yep.
And then a letter from the, Rick said he'd get from the Tompkins County Health Department sent to me, a letter or a direct email, at least from them.
Yeah.
And I'll put those right in there and you'll have those as the other conditions.
Where does that leave us then with this, the sewer units? Do we need, is that covered by one of these, do you think?
The sewer units will get handled through the building permit, Lisa.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so with all that said, I will entertain a motion to approve the special permit.
So moved.
Motion by Lisa, second by Pat. All in favor? Thanks, Lisa.
Yep, I
Um,
vote yes.
So there you go. So yeah, please do be in touch with Mike to follow up on those last few items about the letter from the county. And then obviously information to get to the lighting commission for them to review and approve.
I'll send everything between Mark and Rick and Ron. I'll send everything to you guys, you know, what we need, but we might as well get the building permit process moving along. So you guys can get going. And I'll also send you a copy of the finalized resolution here that we just went through. I know I added things here at the end, but I'll get you a copy of the final product.
But I have a question of Mr. Newman, I think it is. And have you spoken at all to your person about the parking lot situation that we discussed?
I did. We brought it up. I brought it up to our property manager and she said she's going to take a look at it. Some of it is a question of budget, like CapEx budget that we have, but we did bring it up and it did make her aware of it as we had discussed in the last.
So how would we cycle back and find out what's going on from you?
Well, just refresh my recollection. When we say what's going on,
Well, I'm just, how we might improve the safety and the just kind of traffic flow of the parking lot in general. Since it's being dug up kind of for all these projects, now would be a good time to maybe address that was sort of the issue.
well, I first of all, I want to make sure that I understand, like, we don't want to add additional, we're restricted by the leases at the center to do certain things in the parking lot. But if there's specific areas that, like, what I might suggest actually is I might have our property manager reach out to the planning staff, if that would be appropriate. And
Yep.
I mean, really, it's just sort of understanding where you think these points of, or we call it points of pain, where you see the most problems that are happening I think we need to understand exactly where you're seeing real problems at the center.
Okay,
And we could
fair enough.
discuss coming up with a plan for it. But typically, the things that we do are stop signs, speed bumps, signs, stuff like that. And those are pretty easy solutions to add to the center. I definitely want to have my property manager get in touch with you.
Okay.
I don't know if, or the planner, whoever you think is the right person to sort of spearhead
well, with
the conversation.
Mike Scott, we'd start with Mike Scott.
Okay.
He'll kind of, everything goes through Mike.
I will absolutely have, her name's Mary Hallaback. She's runs our property management group in New York, and she's actually at a hearing tonight in Massachusetts. But I will have her reach out to Mike and talk about what we can do. And to the extent that we can't do something this year, it's possible that we could put it into next year's budget.
All right, Rick, I'll contact you tomorrow. Okay, Rick?
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Mike, and everybody, thank you very much for your time. Mike, you've been very helpful and I do appreciate all the effort you've helped get me the right information so I could get you what you needed. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks to everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the continuation of the public hearing for review of special permit number 3076. This is Carolyn Kilborn is proposing to construct a two-family house on Nitsy Drive in the low density residential district, tax parcel number 43.1-1-4.3. This is a special permit that came to us before, and we discussed at the last meeting, and they are asking for an extension of the special permit.
Yeah, if you remember the two topics that we talked about, Brent had discussed a little bit about having erosion control measures during construction. And then the other question was fire apparatus access road. I did reach out to Brad George, our fire chief. He responded. I sent him all the materials. He did respond and said that he would like at least a 12-foot wide driveway with possibly a 25-foot hammerhead somehow so that the engine can either turn around or whatnot. I did email him back to say that when it comes time for the building permit, we may have to, try to negotiate, kind of work something out so that, the building can still be protected by the fire department and still actually be physically possible with what you have there for the land that's being developed. So I think that you could do one of two things. You can either put a condition in the extension that it's approved by our fire chief, or we can basically just handle it through the building permit. Because inevitably, it's my decision on how the fire apparatus access road is designed. But I have had a history of relying on the fire chief because I'm not the one fighting the fire, they are. So in general, all the other occasions we've had to involve the fire chief, we've always come out with some type of solution that best fits both them and also the protection of the homeowner. So it's up to you. So
I would keep it the way that you normally do it. My preference, I would just say, handle it through the building permit process. It wasn't in the permit the first go around. I'm not sure well, I know, I do remember we talked about it then a little bit, but yeah, I would just keep it through the building permit process like you normally would.
And then I don't know whether Brent's got something to add as far as erosion control.
Okay, Brent?
I don't have anything specific. We didn't have any conversations in between the meetings. I don't know that there was anything required other than just to acknowledge that I think that the topic is that the driveway is so steep that there's likely to be some amount of concentration of flow. And obviously it works right at the moment, it's not washed out, but just the question is, by using it, does the driveway become more erodible, or is there some reason that wouldn't be the case?
Well, I think that during the building permit process, we'll have Alex send do a notice of ground disturbance, and we'll figure out whether we need a basic SWIP as far as during the construction period. With it's suggested before the Tim Buell, it suggested to be a double silt fence. We might end up going, keeping that as a requirement. But I think it can be handled through the building permit process.
Sure.
Alex, anything you want to add to this, or?
Well, Mike, I'm happy to work with you on both the fire issue I have a couple of thoughts about that, and obviously with Brent on the erosion. Like I said before, the idea is to keep the erosion and ground disturbance to the minimum, both because the site is steep, but also not to disturb the wildlife, and also we just don't want to build that kind of house that bulldozers have to say. So I'm sure we can work something out there between Mike and Brent.
That's really all I have.
Lisa, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, no, as long as it was, the only thing that I had sort of was the whole issue with the fire chief, but I'm sort of thinking, there are other houses there. There's an answer here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it can be worked out, as you said, during the building permit.
Pat or Jim? Okay. Then, so we do have a resolution. We do have to close the public hearing first. So I'll enter, there's nothing we don't have to do, right? Because this is just an extension of an existing permit. So there's no secret, there's no general conditions. The special permit's already been applied for and approved. We're just extending it out. So we don't have to go through all the steps we typically would. So I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I've moved that we close the public hearing for special permit 3076.
Motion by Lisa, second by Jim. Okay, all in favor? Okay, and you should all have a resolution in front of you. So this is the Village of Lansing Planning Board resolution for the extension of special permit number 3076 adopted on June 28, 2022. This matter involves consideration of the following proposed action, the extension of special permit number 3076, but for Carolyn Kilborn, who is proposing to construct a two-story family house on SD Drive in the low-density residential district. Tax parcel number 43.1-1-4.3, because the property includes land in the steep slope conservation combining district and unique natural area. Special permit review is required pursuant to section 145-48 of the Village of Lansing Code. The original special permit was approved by the Village Planning Board on April 11th, 2016, and has since expired and requires a review for renewal. And on June 13th, 2022 and June 28th, 2022, the Village of Lansing Planning Board opened and continued a public hearing regarding this proposed action. And therein thoroughly reviewed and analyzed the materials and information presented by and on behalf of the applicant in support of this proposed action, including information and materials related to the environmental issues, if any, which the board deemed necessary or appropriate for its review. All other information and materials rightfully before the board, including if applicable comments and recommendations, if any, provided by Tompkins County Department of Planning in accordance with general municipal law, sections 239-L and 239-M, and all issues raised during the public hearing and or otherwise raised in the course of the board's deliberations. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. The Village of Lansing Planning Board hereby finds, subject to conditions and requirements, if any, set forth below, and the provisions provided for in paragraph B above, that the proposed action meets all general conditions required for all special permits, any applicable conditions required for certain special permit uses, and any applicable conditions required for uses within a combining district. And it is hereby determined by the Village of Lansing Planning Board that the extension of special permit number 3076 is approved or denied, subject to the following conditions and requirements. These are just our standard soil erosion control, following all all permits, approvals, consents, authorizations, everything. So nothing's changed in that. I will entertain a motion to approve the special permit extension. Motion by Pat, second by Jim. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
There you go. Special permit approved, extension approved.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. So this is to open a public hearing for subdivision number 2022-4592. Sean and Rachel Ryan, owners of 77 Graham Road, tax parcel number 46.1-1-6.24, are proposing to subdivide their 9.334 acre lot. The proposed parcel B would be 20,005 square feet and would 0.459 acres and would have 101.5 feet of frontage along Dart Drive. The existing parcel A would then contain the remaining 8.875 acres.
This is brought to
Open public hearing for,
Yeah, sorry.
oh, sorry. I thought we had to open it.
Yeah, you do. Did you make a motion, Lisa?
Yes, for 2022-4592.
Motion by Lisa, second by Pat. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Sorry.
This was brought to me by Jamie Jensen, who's on here this evening, and I've met Rachel briefly. I've not met Sean, Ryan. I don't have much information other than what I've given you, a preliminary plat as far as where the parcel would be subdivided. It would be on Dart Drive. The only thing I know at this point, it does meet for medium density residential, it needs 100 foot of frontage. It does, as far as I see on here, it has 101 foot of frontage. And the minimum lot size for a single family would be 20,000 square feet. This has 20,005. Other than that, I really don't have any other information unless Rachel, Sean, or Jamie, you want to provide that. Also, you might have some people who want to speak on this. So.
Okay. Jamie, Rachel, or Sean, do you have any comments you want to make?
This is Sean. No comments to make. If there are questions, happy to answer them.
Okay. Is there anyone that wanted to comment on this?
Yeah, Mike, this is Brian Goodell. Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
Sure.
So I'm Brian Goodell, 16 Dart Drive. I just was curious if there's a map that you could put up to show where that's going to happen. I know it's the lower end of Dart Drive, but I don't know how far back the subdivision is going to go. Is there any way we can see that?
Yeah, I can kind of do this
This is 60.
a little bit. Give me a second, Brian.
Thank you.
Yeah, that you could do.
This is about the best I can do, Brian, in this situation.
16?
Can that be seen, okay?
I can barely see it.
Barely?
Yeah. So it's going to be squared with the other lots? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's this one here. You're up in here, Brian.
Yep. So that lot's going to be on the other side of John's open lot, and it's going to be squared off with the rest of the lots.
Yep.
That's what the proposal
That's what
looks
the
like.
proposal is at this point. We would certainly need a surveyed plat in order for us to sign, so it would have to be something that would have just this actual proposed plat into it.
Survey has been ordered.
Okay.
Is this going to be a single family home?
Yeah, it only has the square footage at this point to be a single family home. It's not large enough for a duplex unless it was a variance granted.
Yeah, and so really all this is right now, Brian, is a request to subdivide.
Understand, thank you.
Did anybody else have any comments they wanted to make that's online or here?
No, I just was gonna say that since it's so close to the allowed things, obviously we do need a surveyed plot, but that's happening, I guess, so. Once I don't know if we can approve this, I suppose, based on that at some point, but will we have a surveyed plot within usually we keep our public hearings open for 2 meetings. Will we have that before the next one?
That is the hope that we'll have it. I'll move you guys where I can see you. That is the hope that we'll have it by the next meeting and the survey will be completed.
Okay.
So Lisa, like Lisa mentioned, we always keep our public hearings open for 2 sessions. We aren't going to take any action on anything tonight. So, yeah. Did you have another comment, Brian?
Yeah, just curious if the cemetery was marked on the map that's in the back there.
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you.
Okay. If there's no other comments, we will pick this one then up at the next meeting. So thanks, Rachel, and Sean and Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is other business. So the first item under other business is the review of the proposed tree conservation and replacement law. So I talked to Lisa a little bit the other day. I did not get any feedback from anybody on concerns or questions. I know we discussed quite a bit at the last meeting. I know that all of our board meetings are always jam-packed. You can tell by the list of things that we had on it tonight. So I would like to propose that we find a time outside a regularly planned board meeting to sit down for 2 hours as a group and hammer this out and go through it.
It still needs to be a public.
Yep, yeah, and so that's why I would really like to get people's input on that. If we can settle on a date tonight, great, because Michael's gonna have to, sorry, I just called you Michael, that was weird. Mike's gonna have to get information out about a special meeting.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was weird, yeah, Michael, I was
Made
like,
me very
wow.
uncomfortable.
So I think honestly, so we were making a lot of progress on this when Simon was here, you know, he was coming and now, you know, his part of that's kind of done and it's in our hands and it seems to be a little bit stalled and I really would like to put some energy into getting it done and having it off our plate. And then we can, you know, take time and move on to the next thing, which is incidentally the kind of part of that's the next item on the agenda too. So what are people's thoughts on that? And so it occurs to me that if the meeting law, I don't know how far out in advance do we have to send notice? My point was, I guess, because the governor extended the public meeting law, we could, does anyone have to be here? Or could we do it all over Zoom? So we could do it all over Zoom and not have to, if that's easier on people's schedules. We won't have to find a time that we all can be here. You know, if I know Lisa's obviously not in town right now, but if other people had things, we could do it over Zoom.
Yeah, and I was related, but a little bit different. I was going to give you a heads up that for the July 11th meeting, given the extension, I might be doing it by Zoom.
That's fine. Yeah, I don't blame you. So is there a time, I don't know if people, everything that I have is electronic for my calendar, so I always have my calendar with me, but I don't know if people can pick a date. How far out do we, what's the earliest that we could have a meeting? Like,
I just need 5 days notice. I got to put it up for 5 days.
Okay, so sometime, are people around at all? I know next week's 4th of July weekend, it's a long weekend. Are people around at all later next week? Or even I don't know.
I've got some stuff going on next week, but I don't have my calendar. I have, like doctor's appointment and another thing, but I don't remember what day it is or what time.
Let me send out a email to everybody. I'll do that when I get home tonight. And if you could just, I'll put some suggestions out there. And then people can, and if it gets too complicated, I will literally just send out a doodle poll or a pick your time kind of thing. And we'll find a time that works for everybody. It doesn't have, if next week doesn't work, it doesn't have to be next week, but I really would like to get something scheduled and I'd like to get it in before that July deadline. So we can just do it over Zoom and not have to be, obviously, public can join in like they always do for any normal meeting, but I will do that when I get home tonight. I'll send an email out. And if you can get back to me, that would be great. And incidentally, my sign on the door about voting being next door just worked.
Sign on what was it, sign?
Because the voting's at the building next door, people kept coming here, so I put a very well handwritten, not at all well handwritten, note with an arrow to the building next door for voting. Okay, so I will do that tonight. Go ahead, Lisa.
The governor extended through, is July 19 the date? Or was there a question about that? I thought.
It was
Or
through
is it, I mean, July 19, we can do
July 14th is when it's extended through.
14. I was gonna say, I wasn't sure that it was 19. Okay, so we have to do it, if we're gonna do it by Zoom, otherwise we have to have a live quorum, right?
Yeah. Yes. So it would be nice to have it done by the 11th too, because then maybe there's something that we can take action on at the July 11th planning board meeting.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, that's the week after next.
Yep. Yeah, and so it might, if we can find a time that works next week, that would be great. But like I said, I'll send an email out and put some suggestions and people can chime in. I can be flexible. I mean, honestly, it could, if people are free at lunch, it could be, I don't know if everybody else, I'll include you too, obviously, since you should. Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I'm like, I don't know if Natalie's free at lunch.
I am free at lunch.
Okay. So we'll figure something out, or at least we'll try.
Because if you're going to
I can't get it in. I wouldn't be able to get it into the legal ad end because of the 4th.
Uh-oh.
You couldn't have it until the 7th. At the earliest, and that's,
Can you get it in tomorrow?
All of us go in the same direction by tomorrow? What do you think?
I'm just curious. We'll find the time. If people can look at their calendars when they get back and try to get back to me either tonight or tomorrow sometime, I can get information to Mike and we can. Yeah.
I will say that when Natalie, I think Natalie would agree that when we went through this, you know, paragraph by paragraph, it made a huge difference. Don't you think, Natalie?
I agree.
And I think, you know, if we want to just get this off the list, which I definitely do, I think this is the only way to do it. And I hope everybody will really pitch in on this.
Yeah, and I think there are some important projects coming up, and I'm kind of surprised that we haven't heard about that from some of them lately, but I think that it's in our best interest to have this in place sooner rather than later. Even if we do focus on commercial and focus on residential later. Also, it might not be that different from other things we've done in the past before where we put a ton of effort into it and it is a real good first go at, a new local law or whatever. Yeah, a new local law. And then if we need to go back and amend it later on, there's a process for that. And we've done that before in the past and that's fine. Hopefully we won't have to make any major amendments, but there's always small things that it makes sense to tweak or adjust or include or exit.
Could you refresh me? When was the email with that attachment? When was that sent out? The most recent attachment?
I can resend it to everybody.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask.
We have the most recent one.
I will do that tomorrow morning. Do you want it in a clean and a marked up version?
Hey, as long as you're offering.
I'm doing it.
I wouldn't have asked for it, but as long as you're offering.
Cleaner marked up, yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then hopefully we can get that finished and progress. Okay. Lisa or anybody, any other quick comments on the tree law?
Nope, not on tree law.
Okay. The next item is continued discussion on code update. I heard Natalie was just going to do everything.
I do have a draft of the one to add the provision regarding after the close of a public hearing for voting on, I believe that was subdivision plats. We need to clarify it was after the close of the public hearing instead of just after the public hearing. On the special permit one, we need to discuss what you wanted to accomplish with that, giving the code officer the clear authority to pull the building permit along with a special permit and just amending that section, or do we want to do a little bit of a further amendment because I'm looking at other municipalities and their special permit codes, they're slightly different. And they give the planning board a little bit more authority over whether or not conditions have been met and then pulling that special permit.
That sounds kind of interesting.
I was going to say,
I thought you might find it very interesting.
I think it's worth to maybe.
So I can
put
send
a little
some
bit
potential
more.
examples
Yeah.
around of what some other local, like, Cuba Heights has a different one and other local municipalities have some different mechanisms for review that maybe we want to entertain.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that would be good.
just something you need from me, Natalie, how I interpret it or something? I mean, is there something? I know you asked me a question now.
Well, I just, there's a part of the code that I thought would have fit in the issue that presented in the fall.
Yeah, but they were falling back on the fact that they were substantially done and they had, I can't remember the word that they used, Lisa. Do you remember
Oh, what John Langley?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I could.
They
probably-
had rights because they went so far in the project. They had
Yeah.
Right. to
Oh, yeah,
completion.
you're right. You're right.
Because I wasn't involved in the beginning of that dispute, should we say?
So what you sent was certainly applicable.
Yes.
But it was exactly what they were, what they were using to, as their, that's exactly what they were leaning on to.
Yes, okay, here it was.
Keep going on the project.
That they had a vested interest.
Yes, they had a vested
Yeah.
interest.
So what did he, oh yeah, when was that exactly? When, I could look back. Were those, were we recording meetings then? Yes.
Yeah, we were. March? No.
Yeah, I was gonna, or was it 2021? Yes, what was the term?
Yeah, it was vested.
Vested interest.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yes, because I said to Mike that I believed section 145-57H provided him the authority to pull the special permit.
Vested rights is what I have here. Was October of 2021. There was a BZA meeting on the October 19th.
Mhm.
And they talked about vested rights, substantial completion, then leads to the right to finish the project.
Yeah, the other provisions kind of give the planning board, after hearing, the authority to decide whether or not something's been substantially completed and then to pull a permit. So slightly different.
But does the planning board have the right to? They don't have the right to pull the building permit because they.
No. They pull the special permit and then you would pull the building permit.
We would have,
It would be a dual
right,
type of.
Because the special permit doesn't exist, then
Without.
it was leaned on, I leaned on.
Yes.
To issue the building permit.
Yes.
But isn't that where we got hung up, as he said, well, they aren't connected, sort of, in a funny way?
Yes, but other municipal statutes have it more clearly spelled out that without the special permit, you have no other, it's a complete stop work order. And the building.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Okay. So yeah, we don't really want to pull the building permit per se. We want to pull the special permit.
right.
What they were arguing was the way it read, they said that no more permits could be issued.
Not retracted.
Retracted.
So we'll look at some other municipalities.
Okay.
Anything else on that topic? Code updates?
I do think that there was one thing that Mike and I were talking about, various and sundry things. I was wondering, Mike Scott, whether now that we have a lighting code, whether we should add that to our resolutions for special permits, just as one of our standard conditions that will get approval from the lighting commission. You know how we just always.
Yeah, so it was, so there's all these other things that we always talk about. Lisa and I brought this up with her the other day, is we've got, I don't have one in front of me, I do, but just putting the things on there anyway, like approval by the lighting commission. Maybe it's not always applicable, but there's stuff on there that's always not already applicable. So lighting commission, approval, review and approval of, landscape plan. So there's these things that we ask for sometimes, and it depends on when they are, but having them clearly spelled out. For example, if we had that one on there, we wouldn't have had to add it to one of the things tonight. More often than not, when we're looking at some of these special permits, I feel like there are, there's going to be lighting, there's going to be these other things, and maybe it makes more sense to just have them in there as part of our standard requirements. It can be its own section too. I mean, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to like break it off. Thoughts? I'm looking at YouTube for thoughts on that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the only, yeah, it's a good idea. The only thing I'm thinking of is where do you end?
Yeah.
Where do you stop putting,
Well, I think this one keeps coming up every time.
Yeah, it says then you put a tree, it's your tree ordinance, and then you're gonna add that to it, approved by tree ordinance. Then you got A through Z before you can start adding any in there.
That's where the appendix goes.
Appendix, yeah.
You reference the living
Would be
document.
helpful, other than have it in like the standard form, is just to have a list of those type of things that we can easily look at maybe in the first public hearing, saying these are now going to be applicable, check, 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 and we're going to put these on this special permit. So always a list that we look at. It's like, yeah, a lighting, a landscape, not, sign.
Right.
And then Mike can just easily.
Erase it.
Yeah.
Start with a big form and delete everything out.
And that might be fine too, as long as it's somewhere when we start, so these things don't
Yes,
slip
it's
through the
always
cracks.
in the mind.
Or come up later on,
Yeah.
right? If we could let, it's kind of like the developer's checklist that we talked about, right? You know, when we're talking to a developer now, we're gonna say, hey, and by the way, there's this sidewalk thing. You know, if we could have all these things up front there, whether it's a developer or somebody who wants to go and, you know, just, you know, build a house and they, you know, a variance or something. Yeah, if we could just have it all up front and then just weed out what you don't need, that's fine too. Whatever's easier and doesn't let things slip through the cracks, I think is kind of the point that I was trying to get at towards Lisa.
That makes sense.
Oh, it's right. There you go.
Makes sense.
Okay. Then you don't have to change the format. Wow. You just need a big copy sheet, write the special permit number and got a whole bunch of check boxes.
Yeah, basically.
And then extra check boxes where you can write in, you know, the next one. Blank check boxes. Okay. Next item then on did you have anything else on that, Lisa? Sorry.
Nope.
Okay. Next item is the trustee report.
Well, I decided to be the regularly scheduled or regular trustees meeting would have been on June 20th, which was Juneteenth, so there wasn't one. So I don't know, I was feeling conscientious and diligent, so I went to the Thursday meeting.
Okay.
On the 16th. Really not much report. John Courtney reported on the status of sewers and water mains in the village and the status of a new loader that was purchased last year because the previous loader's bucket wouldn't go all the way to the ground. And then Mike Scott brought up to the trustees planning board's concerns. And Mike, you can correct me if I got this wrong. The planning board's concerns that more sewers would lead to more subdivision. And I think you said that you were working on seeing where the village, you know, where in the village this might be an issue. I think somebody knows there might necessitate a change in the village code. And as far as things that might affect the planning board, that was it.
Okay. I think I have July meetings. Is that right?
Actually, I do.
Never mind then. I don't have July.
I
Okay.
have July meeting, and I already know that July 4th, they're not going to be meeting, so.
I'll take the July meetings. No, I'm just joking.
No, I already got dibs before I retired as chair.
Okay.
No, so, but no, I have July and then you're up.
Okay, I was a month off. Okay. Any final thoughts, Lisa, Pat, or Jim?
No.
Natalie?
No.
Mike?
Happy 4th.
Really? Oh, yeah, happy Friday. Yeah, I hope everybody has a good, fun, long weekend coming up. That'll be nice. If you work at Cornell, it's a 3.5-day weekend. We get Fridays off.
Friday for me, because I take the.
Oh, there you go. Oh, nice, yeah. At least.
Gotta get my vacation balance under the
Oh, yeah.
maximum.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this evening's planning board meeting.
Motion by Jim,
Second.
second by Pat, all in favor. There you go.
8:26.
At 8:26 PM.